Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network, brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. We come to you on this Football Friday. For the last time in the regular season, we have reached the end of the NFL regular season, sadly, on the Mike Francesa channel, on the Bet Rivers Network, on YouTube. On this Football Friday as we get ready and look ahead to the playoffs. One more week to play, and obviously one enormous game to be played. There are other games that have some playoff implications. There are still spots to be won. We'll get to all that, but everyone looking ahead to an historic game. Two 14-win teams meeting in the last game of the season inside the division, and so much on the line. Think of it. The Lions, where they've been all season, the Vikings, and the play that they've gotten from Sam Darnold and that offense. And look at it this way: you have two teams. One is going to be the one seed, the division champ with a bye. The other one is going to be the 5. Be on the road the first week. Be on the road the entire postseason. I mean, so it is an enormous difference of what's to be won in that Sunday night encounter between the Vikings and the Lions, who have both arrived there. And the Vikings have done it with the blitzing defense and with the passing of Sam Darnold, and the Lions have done it with their offense. They have been obliterated. They have lost 9 of their top 22 players on defense, including 3 or 4 of their best players. They have been decimated on defense. You saw it in the Niner game the other night, how until the second half, when the defense made a couple plays in the secondary, they couldn't stop the Niners at all, but they could outscore them, as they did, and they can outscore anybody. Their offense is a perfectly balanced machine. Even without Montgomery, who might be back for the playoffs, they are just explosive, overpowering. They do everything that you want offensively, and they have been a machine. And they'll have to be again to win the 1 seed. And it's amazing. Imagine the Lions having the season they had and they're winning over the 5. It could happen. One game coming your way on Sunday night. Now, as far as where we are this weekend, we begin on Saturday with 2 games that have implications. Browns and the Ravens. The Browns will start their 4th starting quarterback. One's been worse than the other. Winston has his moments, but he turns the ball over too much. Zappy will start a quarterback. But the Browns say they are motivated to beat the Ravens. They don't like the Ravens. We know that. But the Ravens, with a win, lock up to 3. They also can get to 3 and the division title if the Steelers lose to the hot Bengals, which is the second game of the doubleheader. So Ravens, who are an 18-point favorite in this game, they've won their last 3 games by 22 points a game, and that's against good teams. They now play Cleveland at home, and you would expect them to just overpower the Browns in this game. The Bengals have a chance, but a very, very, very small chance, a 4% chance of going to the playoffs. They need a lot to happen. First thing they have to do is win. Steelers need a win just for a win. Steelers are in the playoffs. Yes, they could slip out of the 5, but the bottom line is they're in the playoffs. They can't expect to win the division title because the Ravens aren't going to lose to the Browns. But more than that, the Steelers need to go into the playoffs playing well. They've lost 3 games in a row. They have fallen apart, and they need a win just for their own psyche. I mean, more than anything else, they just need to play well and get a victory. Bengals, obviously, would love to finish 9-8 in this crazy season. They would be a dangerous team in the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to be in the postseason. That's just the way it is. It's not going to work for them. Now, games that matter. We, of course, will get to the big one, the Vikings and the Lions. Historic game. 1 seed on one side, the 5 seed on the other side. But otherwise, Saints and Bucks. Bucks win. They're in. They win the division. Falcons need a win and a Buck loss to the Saints, which I'm going to tell you right now is not going to happen. Saints have just fallen apart. They lost to the Raiders last week. It's not going to happen. The Bucs are going to continue to score like they are, and they're going to win the division. The Falcons had their hearts broken with that loss the other night in overtime. Um, Raheem Morris, who has got to learn how to coach better. I mean, his use of the clock, both before the half and at the end of the game, cost him the game. I mean, it was atrocious. But they did find the quarterback. I mean, they found the quarterback. Penix is going to be a good quarterback. I don't think there's any question. Panthers and the Falcons, that we know what happens there. Seahawks and Rams is interesting. The Rams aren't playing anybody. Seahawks are favored. Seahawks are out of it. But the Rams are resting people. And the Rams, with a loss, fall out of the 3, fall to the 4. Now, the 4 means you could face the Lions or the Vikings in the first game, the first round. All right. Most likely, if they're the 3, they're going to face the Packers. I guess they don't care because it doesn't look like they're playing a lot of people this week, and they could move out of the 3 because if Tampa wins and the Rams lose, then the Tampa's the 3 and the Rams are the 4. Now, the Rams are already locked in the division. They can't fall past 4, but 3-4 does. You don't want to play the Lions in the first round, do you? But hey, I guess they're not worried about it. They'll take all comers. Chiefs and Broncos. Broncos in with a win. It's as simple as it's put. A tie or a win. Kansas City's resting everybody. They go to Denver. Broncos should win, and that should be the last playoff spot. Dolphins get in with a win, and they get the Jets this week. They get in with a win and a Denver loss. So the bottom line is Denver controls its own destiny to lock up that last spot. Tampa controls its own destiny to win its division title. Okay, now, most likely, here's how the seeding is going to shake out. Most likely, Kansas City 1 is a lock. Buffalo 2 is a lock. Baltimore with a win is the 3. Houston is a lock in the 4. Pitt, San Diego, that could flip-flop. Now, if it doesn't, you could have Harbaugh in the first round, and then Denver in the 7th. On the NFC side, you have Detroit, Minnesota. The winner's the 1, the loser's the 5. Philly's the 2. Rams and Bucs will be the 3 and the 4 either way. If the Rams win, they're the 3. If they lose, Tampa with a win is the 3, and they're the 4. Then you have the mini Detroit loser, Green Bay, and Washington. So you could have some moving in the seeds. We know who's going to the playoffs. Tampa's in with a win. If they ever get upset by the Saints, which would be unfathomable at this point. I mean, they're not only are they 14-point favorites at home, but Saints have nothing left. It's almost impossible to see them losing to Tampa. So I would be shocked if Atlanta's going to be on the outside looking in. Cincinnati's going to be on the outside looking in. Miami's going to be on the outside looking in, most likely. So this would be your most likely playoff matchups a week from now. Kansas City gets a bye. Detroit, Minnesota winner gets a bye. Now, Denver at Buffalo. Chargers at Baltimore. Pitt at Houston. You could have a flip-flop there and have Pitt at Baltimore and Chargers at Houston. That's possible. Now, on the other side, Washington at Philly. Green Bay at Rams. You could have Minnesota at Tampa Bay. You could have Minnesota at Rams and Green Bay at Tampa Bay. So that could flip-flop based on whether the Rams win or not. So you got Philly, Rams, and Tampa hosting the games. Washington, Philly, Green Bay, and Minnesota in either slot. So you could have Green Bay at the Rams, good game. Minnesota at the Rams, good game. Lion at the Rams, good game. Those 3 at Tampa, interesting games. Rams and Tampa are going to be an interesting team. They are not as good as those NFC North teams. So the Lions, Minnesota, are going to be favored on the road in those playoff games. They're going to be slight favorites on the road. Lions are going to be favored. Minnesota's going to be a slight favorite, very slight. Or maybe pick 'em, depending on who they play. Okay, I could see Minnesota with the Rams being a pick 'em or maybe a 1-pointer. Same thing with Tampa, maybe 1 or 2 points. That's it. But that's what you're looking at right now. Now, is there any shocker out there? The shocker would be if the Saints beat Tampa, shocker, absolute shocker. Or if Kansas City with the backups beat Denver, shocker. Don't expect that to happen. You really don't. But if you're Miami, you got a dream. If you're the Bengals, you got a dream. Plus, the Bengals want to beat the Steelers and finish with a winning record in this horrible season. Burrow's had an MVP type season. Chase has had a great season. So they want to finish with a win. But the Steelers desperately need a victory because their mentality is just not there right now. You don't want to go into the playoffs with 4 straight losses. I mean, they want to feel decent about themselves. As for the Giants, the Eagles aren't playing anybody. Barkley's not playing. Giants are going to win again, and they're going to move up the draft board. That's the way it is. We're going to experience Black Monday this week. How many jobs are going to be open? 8 is the max. Will it be inside 8? I think it will. I think it will. We know there's 3 openings already. We're expecting some others. The surprises will be, or what you're looking at is 3 decisions. Is the Dallas job going to open? Is McCarthy looking to go elsewhere? He's been rumored in other places. Does he decide to tell Cowboys, I'd like to look around, or I'd like to go somewhere else? He would get another job immediately. There's no question he would get a job. Now, does the Giant job open? I have told you all along my feeling was that they would give these guys another chance, that they don't want to change again. I still feel that. And I even feel that more because of the performance last week against a Colt team that obviously wasn't interested. Does the Colt job open up now because of the way they finished the season? Might be a possibility. That could be one of the surprises if the Colts open. And then does New England fire their coach after 1 year? I know Vrabel wants the job in New England. I don't know if they're going to change. I don't think Kraft wants to dump him after 1 year. I don't think he does. So does that mean Vrabel goes somewhere else? Or does he wait patiently? No, I think he goes somewhere else. Is this the year where Ben Johnson goes, despite the fact he seems to have some issues in interviewing? Is this the year he takes a job? Probably. You're going to hear the name Liam Cohn a lot. I know Tampa's trying to get Liam to back off being a head coach. He's 39 years old. And stay another year, give him a good bump in pay and get him to stay, and then wait a year or 2 to become a head coach. I don't know if that's going to happen. I know that he has stated that he's very happy with this team, with this offense, and in his job, that he would be very comfortable in his job. He understands. He's patient. He said he doesn't have to be a head coach right now. He's a very prominent name now. He's a very hot name. Not just because they throw the ball around, but because of what he's done with the running game, too. He's really done a tremendous job energizing that running game. Irvin has had a big season. So he's become a very hot property. He does not have a great background, despite the fact he was with McVay for a little while. He does, aren't they all? But he does not have an incredible resume, but he's done a great job this year. And you've heard that name with me all year, Liam Cohn. You're going to hear his name mentioned a lot. He will get office. The question is, does he stay in Tampa or does he jump? We'll see. This is his first go round. He might wait. Some guys have cooled off. Certain assistants whose teams haven't had the same years on offense have cooled off. That's what happens. You don't get a job, and then all of a sudden your team doesn't have the same year offensively, and you cool off. But that's all right. You wait, and next time it comes. So that all begins. You know the process. You go through tomorrow's games, and then Black Monday comes, and we'll have a couple of surprises. We always do. And, as they say in Casablanca, round up the usual suspects. sprinkle in a couple of new names, and we'll see what happens. Can somebody take a chance on Pete Carroll, who desperately wants to come back and coach? Rex Ryan has obviously been banging the drum for himself. Well, we know he's not going to bang for someone else, but he's been banging for himself, as we know. So what happens there? Hmm. I have a hard time seeing him getting into the job as a head coach, but we'll see what happens. So it'll be fascinating. You have one New York job open. You could have two New York jobs open. Does the Dallas Cowboy job open? The Bear job open? The When you have the Bears open, that's a big time job. When you have the Cowboys open, whoa! I mean, and then have if you have the Giants open, but I don't think the Giants will be open. That's just I know David might have to go in and sing for supper. There's talk that he wants to present a plan. He probably got that from the old days. George Young, everything went wrong for Bill Parcells in his first year with the Giants. He had tragedy in his life. Both his parents passed. He had an assistant coach get ill and pass. He had tragedies with the team. They went through a listless season, had a terrible season, went 3-12-1. George Young was very close to Howard Schnellenberger, who was a hot property at the time. Long story short, they found Bill found out that George was talking to Schnellenberger because George didn't realize at that time that coaches had agents, and they both had the same agent, which was Robert Fraley, who died in a plane crash with Payne Stewart. Robert Fraley, Bill Parcells was his first client. So Bill went into George and said, I want another chance. I know where he made my mistakes. He gave him a plan that George told me personally was the most impressive plan he had ever seen from a football person ever. Plus, Bill told him something. He said, I tried to be a good guy with these guys and be a friend. No more. Now, I'm going to take a different tact. And we know what he became. There was no tougher coach. There was no one who the players admired more and respected more, but he was tough on his players and they loved it. But he became a tough guy. And he changed radically, and the team changed with him, and the rest is history. Dable's going to go in and say, hey, here's where I made my mistakes. Here's where I've made my mistakes in personnel. Here's where I've made my mistakes with coaches. He obviously hasn't gotten along with coaches. You got coaches out there like Wink Martindale killing him. Okay, he hasn't gotten along. We know he's had trouble with different assistants. He might be difficult to get along with. I don't know. It looks like there's a lot of evidence to that. But I think he's going to go in and try and say, give me one more chance. And I think they will. I think they will. I just got a feeling. Now we'll see what happens. I don't have any information, but it's just I just don't think the Giants want to make another move. And they'll fall back on the fact that he won in his first year, even though the last couple of years have looked awful. And what they're going to rely on here or fall back on is the fact that they feel they've uncovered some gems in this year, especially with Neighbors and Tracy. Hey, they have a lot of work to do. I think they're going to get another chance. Now, the idea of drafting a quarterback, first of all, I don't think this is the most unlucky situation. I'll tell you why. I don't think there was a quarterback worthy of being taken at the number one spot. Let somebody else do that. All right, maybe they're going to trade for a quarterback. Maybe they're going to trade for a young guy. Maybe they're going to trade for the kid in Minnesota because they're going to keep Sam now. Maybe that happens. There's a lot of different ways they can go without getting the top kid in the draft. That doesn't mean don't draft a quarterback if you like one. Or if you happen to like someone else's quarterback that's young and you want to make a move for him, okay. They're going to get one more shot at this if they get a shot. And if they're after a quarterback, they better be right about him. That's all there is to it. Because if they're wrong about him, they're going to get fired, and they know it. They'll have to show massive improvement next year to stay. But they will not be picking first, and I think they're going to win this week. It's going to be 4 wins, so they'll probably be picking 5th or 6th in the draft, somewhere around there. They could move up. They could still select a quarterback, and there was nobody. There was no Aikman. There was no Manning. There was no Luck. There was no great quarterback. I don't want to say guys who were bargains and taken down in the draft, because we all know there were plenty of quarterbacks taken. Dan Marino taken late in the first round for a variety of reasons. Montana taken later in the draft. Obviously, we know the saga of Brady. I mean, so quarterbacks come in all different places. They come out of all different places. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But they need to find someone to play the position. He's not on the roster. That we do know. We all know that, and that has to be priority number one once they decide whether they're staying or leaving. So we'll find all that out on Black Monday, and then we'll get ready for the playoffs next weekend. I missed the regular season. I missed Sunday at 1. That's what I think of the NFL. But a lot of people like these next 2 weekends coming up, the first 2 playoff weekends where you have doubleheader Saturday and Sunday as the best weekends in sport. Hey, depends on your likes. Now, before I get to a couple of things on the emails, let me get to college football for a second. I know people are pointing out different things about the playoff. Oh, this team should have been in this team. Hey, you can't have 7 SEC teams in it. Sorry. Are there SEC teams that are better? Well, people wanted Alabama, and how'd they play? They lost and were deplorable as a 17-point favorite against Michigan. And Michigan beats them outright. Michigan's last 2 games, think about what they did. Beating Ohio State outright as a huge underdog, beating Alabama outright as a huge underdog. Very good job by Martindale. He did a great job with both defensive schemes. And you realize Ohio State's clearly the most talented team in the country and the favorite now to win the whole thing. I've been 7-0 so far in these college football playoffs. The only game I didn't pick was Oregon, Ohio State. I picked Arizona State as an underdog, and I picked Notre Dame. It was a 1-point underdog to Georgia when I picked it. I told you this year I thought Notre Dame could win the championship. I don't think they're the best team, but I think they could. I thought they'd beat Georgia. The Penn State game is going to be fascinating. Penn State's as good as Notre Dame. But Franklin has trouble in the big game. And I think Notre Dame's just in all 3 units. Now, Penn State's got tremendous defensive players. They have a wonderful tight end in Warren. He's going to be a big-time pro. He's a terrific talent. Notre Dame is a good defensive team. Their pass rush was a big factor. Hey, they didn't move the ball well yesterday. The only thing they did, they hit nothing in the passing game. The only thing they did was have the quarterback scramble a million times and get the kick return for a touchdown and the turnovers. Notre Dame has lived on turnovers all year. They have had a success rate on turnovers unlike anybody has seen in college football in years. This team has had an incredible ability to do that, and some teams continue to do that. And they have done it regularly. And their special teams are excellent. They're not good at kicking, but they kicked well yesterday. That's the one weakness they have is place kicker. But they're good at blocking punts. You saw a kick return for a touchdown yesterday. Georgia made a lot of mistakes yesterday. They dropped a wide open touchdown pass. They had the ball down to the 10 when the kid collided with the official, and that got that pulled back, and they had to settle for 3 points. They turned the ball over late in the first half on their own 15-yard line. I mean, that was a killer because Notre Dame got a touchdown and broke the game open there. When you look at that touchdown that came off the turnover in the last 2 minutes and then the kickoff to start the third quarter, those 2 touchdowns decided the game. Notre Dame Penn State is a tremendous matchup. Notre Dame's a 1.5-point favorite. I favor them. Texas Ohio State. Arizona State got screwed. I'm going to tell you right now, the officials should be ashamed of themselves. I understand they didn't want to give Texas a flag that won the game for Arizona State. And that didn't automatically win the game for Arizona State because their place kick is not automatic. They had trouble with place kickers all year. So it wasn't that they had an automatic field goal. They didn't have an automatic kicker, but they deserved to be down there somewhere around the Texas 30-yard line after that targeting play, because if that's not targeting, what exactly is targeting? That was obscene how badly that call was missed. And they just swallowed their whistles because they're gutless. And they didn't want to do what was right. They didn't want to beat Texas on a flag. That was nonsense. I mean, that was just one of the worst things I've seen in a long time because, hey, he almost knocked that kid cold. If that's not targeting, there is no such thing. And Arizona State's back played. His game was absolutely remarkable. One of the great performances I've seen in a very long time in a bowl game. Texas was lucky to survive. Now they're 6.5-point underdogs to Ohio State, which just demolished Oregon, which nobody saw coming. We all expected Oregon to play well. Their wide receiver Smith's the best player in college football. I've told you that before. He is unstoppable. If you don't slow him down, and Texas has got good athletes, they're still going to have to double team him and make somebody else beat them. You have to do that. You can't let that kid beat you. And Chip Kelly's going to find ways to get him the ball and get him in matchups where they can get him the ball. And you have to do everything you can to guard against that. That Texas defense against the Ohio State offense is going to be a great matchup. The question is, how well will Texas play on offense? They've been very scattergun on offense. They've been hot, they've been cold. They have weapons, but they haven't been great. Looked like they were going to blow Arizona State right out of the game. I mean, they had 14 points after 3 plays, and they didn't do anything after that. And they were lucky to win the game. Fortunate to win the game. But now you have 2 excellent matchups. Ohio State, Texas. Ohio State deserves to be the favorite. I think they win the game. Notre Dame, Penn State. Franklin has had trouble in these kind of games. In the past, Notre Dame has had trouble in these kind of games. This is a good matchup. Defenses are going to be front and center. Notre Dame's offense has got to be better, or it will not win a championship. Are they capable of winning a championship? Yes. Will they be underdog in the championship game? They will be a slight underdog to Texas. They'll be a big underdog, a pretty solid underdog to Ohio State. And if Ohio State whacks Texas, they're going to be a pretty solid favorite because Ohio State is a 6.5-point favorite against Texas, which means, on a neutral field, that is a big deal. And although people are going to say, oh, it's going to be a Texas crowd, hey, the bottom line is Ohio State's going to travel well. So it's not going to be a home game. And they are playing really well right now. And they have an unstoppable player. They have the best talent in the country. Doesn't mean they're going to win it, though. They can be beaten. I thought there were 5 teams that could win the championship. 4 of them are right here. Oregon was the other. But I said I didn't think Penn State would win it. I still don't. I think the other 3, OSU, Texas, Notre Dame can win it. But I think Ohio State's going to win their game. And I think Notre Dame is going to sneak past using all 3 facets and better coaching. I think they're going to slip past a very good Penn State team. Very good. Now, would it be surprised if Penn State won? Of course not. Penn State can play with any of these teams. They just got to prove they can beat these teams because they haven't done it. And this coach hasn't done it. I'm not a big fan of their coach. We've had our issues, as you may remember from years past. I got on him for running the score up one time, called timeout, and kicked the field goal on one of those teams they were trouncing. I mean, it was a joke. Like I said, Texas, I just feel like there's something missing with Texas. That's why I didn't think they'd win it. But I'll tell you that Cam Scatterbo was unbelievable. Cam Scatterbo was unbelievable in that game. He was great. Really, one of the best performances I've seen in a long time in college. An amazing performance. And Arizona State, I feel bad for them because they really did get screwed in that game. They played their hearts out, but they really did get screwed. Now, is it weird that the four teams that were seeded all lost? It happens. I mean, it happens. It was surprising how badly Oregon played. They were no match. They were just absolutely destroyed by Ohio State. Sometimes it happens. Ohio State clearly has been motivated by all the negativity after the Michigan game, and Michigan can't wait to make the T-shirt up if Ohio State wins the national championship. Michigan blank, Ohio national champions. Whatever the final score of that game was. I don't remember off the top of my head. Whatever was, I remember the game was low scoring, but I can't remember the top of my head what the score was. But whatever the score was in that game, I'll look it up for a second. Um, they'll make a T-shirt saying that was the fine. That'll be the T-shirt. Michigan, whatever it was, Ohio State. What was the final score in that game? Let me find it. Sorry to wait here. I'm looking. Let me see if I can find it. I can't find the game. I know it was low scoring, but for some reason I can't remember the score. Let me see. Hold on. I'll find it. There it is. 13-10. So Michigan 13, national champions 10 would be the obviously apropos T-shirt. And Michigan, the way they finished the season, huge underdog to Ohio State. They beat them outright. And then huge underdog. They were 19.5-point underdog to Ohio State. They went outright. And they were a 17-point underdog because most of their guys were sitting out. Alabama was supposed to kill them. Alabama was so overmatched by their pass rush and their defensive scheme. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. And they win the game outright. So a heck of a job by Michigan. But Ohio State is on full blast right now. And they are playing, well, they're playing better than everybody else. Will it continue? We'll see. They're playing Texas. Notre Dame's playing Penn State. Good Final Four. This playoffs is going to get better and better. I think it will expand. I think it will expand to 16 teams. Listen, the bottom line is a team like a league like the SEC is always going to have teams that are better than some of the teams that get into this. That's going to happen. There's nothing you can do about that. Ole Miss deserved to get in. No, they didn't. They hadn't played their way in. That's tough. Alabama, were they better than SMU? Yes, but that doesn't mean they would have played any better. Look at the way Oregon played. It happens. Sometimes you play badly. SMU played badly that day. People were like Arizona State. Well, Arizona State played great. And they looked like they were going to get blown out in the first 10 minutes of the game. So there needs to be some subtle changes, but this thing's going to get bigger and bigger and better all the time. And obviously, what went on in Georgia, what went on in New Orleans, just, the idea of playing a game was tough enough. For those people to have to wait an extra day and go through everything that went on in New Orleans, did it detract from the game? Well, obviously it did. When you have that kind of thing happen, 30 hours before the game, have it. I can't even imagine being in that city with what was going on and then playing that game. And clearly they had to play it. They had no choice. They were right to cancel it that night because there was still a lot of things going on. So playing it the next day, I'm sure there was an issue with getting people hotel rooms and people coming in and people going out and stuff like that because that's a huge convention town. Notre Dame, New Orleans is very used to handling big crowds and big events. They're a great big event city. I've been there for Final Fours and Super Bowls multiple times. It's a great city. It's one of the great big event cities in the country. Why they hadn't prepared Bourbon Street and protected it the way they needed to, I don't know. That's not for me to answer. But the tragedy was just, you know, beyond words. There were a couple of people from Long Island killed. There was a Princeton football player killed. There was a Georgia student killed. I mean, it was just our hearts go out to everybody with what happened there. That's the world we live in, unfortunately. All right, check out the all new prop packs exclusively at Bet Rivers. Place a qualifying NBA same game parlay, and you receive a prop pack. You will earn extra rewards from your player card based on the number of points that he scores. You can open the card up and boom, be a big winner. Win 10,000 in bonus credits right away. Terms and conditions apply. See the Bet Rivers app for full details. Tear into the action. So check out the prop packs. Emails, Mike Francesa, Mike Francesa podcast at gmail.com. Mike Francesa podcast at gmail.com. That's where you send me the emails. And remember, they started this newsletter. Sign up today for the Mike Francesa podcast newsletter at mikefrancesapodcast.com. You'll get different videos, exclusive videos, merchandise coming. Mike Francesa podcast merchandise coming. I saw the stuff they're making is really nice, and different things. So all you have to do is go to the website, mikefrancesapodcast.com, sign up, give them the information they want, and you're in. That's it. Doesn't cost you any money, nothing. So, and you can get plenty of good different goodies and different things and all that. So check it out. All right, let's get to some emails for today. Rob starts us off. It seems like Darnold and Goff are not getting enough respect in the MVP conversation. Well, if you're looking for MVPs in the NFL, you have Josh Allen, you got Jackson. They're both at the top of the list. A lot of people think Jackson should win it. I think Allen will win it. You have Barkley, who's had an insane year. Now it's usually a quarterback award in modern times, but Barkley's had an insane year. And then you have Donald, who's had a tremendous year, and obviously the Lion quarterback has had a very good year. But let's be honest, even Goff and Donald, who have had really good years, they have paled in comparison to what Josh Allen's done this year and what Lamar Jackson's done this year. So they're going to be 1-2. Allen 1, Jackson 2. I know Jackson thinks maybe he can put on a show tomorrow and win it. I don't think he's going to win it. I think Allen's going to win it. That's just my opinion. But again, I don't worry too much about that. But I think Allen's going to win it. Doug, what's the delay in Alonso with the Mets? Do you think Pete regrets hiring Boris? Well, we're not there yet. If anything, I think Pete regrets leaving an offer on the table that he shouldn't have. What's hurting, I don't think the Mets are trying to be in any way disrespectful. I think they're doing their due diligence. And they have, number one, they clearly feel they have an alternate plan that works for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't act this way. Number two, I think they really worry about how Alonso will age. I think that is a big, big key for them. I think it's something that worries them a lot. I think they feel like he's not going to be a guy who is going to age well, that he's going to get old quickly. Now, he's been very durable. He plays a lot of games. He's exceedingly durable. They worry about him from that standpoint. I think they should sign him. I think it's a positive for them to sign him. I think that lineup with him in it, and obviously backing up Soto and having now a big key to this season is you're going on the premise that Vientos is real. He had an incredible year last year, and he had a great postseason. Is he real? Is that real? Well, I'd like to see him do it again, but it looked pretty real to me. And that's a big key for them. Really is. But I think he's still a better fit with the Mets than he is anywhere else. Um, Phil, what makes Vrabel a great coach? I don't think Vrabel is a great coach. I think he's a solid coach. I don't think he's proven himself to be a great coach. Now, great's a term. Andy Reid's a great coach. Okay. You stand the test of time. You win multiple championships. That's what makes you a great coach. Vrabel's not a great coach yet. Is he a leader? Yes. He's a former player. He's a former champion. He knows how to lead teams. He's a leader of men. He knows what has to be done. He can modernize. He can handle the current athlete. Okay. That's why he will get a job. I think he's a very solid choice. I think he can win and win big with the right players. I think he won't embarrass you. I think he knows what he's doing. I think he knows how to lead. So I understand why he will be a candidate in multiple places. I think he will get a job, but I don't think he's anything that I would, go crazy over. Could the Giants let Locke start next season? No, they have no interest in that. He could be the backup. He will not. Now, before this, they just wanted to get rid of him. Then he had a great game the other day. I don't think they have any interest in him being anything but their backup. That's it. So no, I don't think I think they feel that their job is wide open and that they will bring a quarterback in. Whether they trade for somebody who's, you know, like McCarthy, if they trade for him, if he's, someone the Vikings are going to trade, that kind of thing, or go draft somebody, or they have their interest in somebody else, we'll see. There are very few quarterbacks that would be available that I would have an interest in if I was the Giants. Very few. So it's not like there's a lot of them out there that I would be, that interested in. I have to admit. Um, you know, Kyler Murray. People have mentioned. I'm not a big. I'm not a big Murray. I don't like where I have to change things. I don't want. I want my quarterback's presence in the pocket. I know he's a good offensive player. I understand that. I know he's a dangerous player. I just want a guy I want a quarterback to play from the pocket. I like if he has this capability. Now you would love him to be able to run like Allen or Jackson or somebody like that or Daniels, but I'd rather have a guy who first can play and lead from the pocket. Your quarterback has to be able to make certain throws. He has to have accuracy, and he has to have the ability to lead and run the offense. And those are things that are kind of rare. They are. They're kind of rare. And you don't, so finding the right guy is a big deal. It really is. There's not a lot of guys out there. That's why you got to develop somebody or find somebody. There's just not a lot of guys out there. So it remains to be seen. It's wide open. It really is. But you got to find somebody that you can believe in and build around, or you got to go draft somebody. This is not a deep quarterback draft this year. It's not. There's not that there's not the guy that you knew you were going to take at the top of the draft who's automatic, like Luck would be, or Aikman would be, or Elway would be, or Peyton Manning would be. That kind of guy. It's not out there. That's all there is to it. It's just not out there. We'll see you later.